who says,
if you want a destination for green manufacturing, then the right place to invest is in Kenya, because you get green energy and you get responsible manufacturing out of our ecosystem.
Ruga Ival, Lookuptv.
Ruga Ival. Opposition leader Raila Odinga has cast aspersions on President William Ruto's leadership, accusing the head of state of capturing independent institutions. Raila says President William Ruto's regime has infiltrated both the legislature and the judiciary, crippling their independence and posing a grievous danger to the democracy in the country. As a reporter who returned in our files, the former premier has also warned the devolution is under threat and has asked Kenyans to unite and demand for good governance.
While addressing the young African leaders and aspirants Yala, the opposition leader Raila Odinga has expressed his fears President William Ruto is interfering with the independent institutions while demonstrating a clear disregard to the constitution.
Our democracy is under siege. Our democracy is under siege because of state capture. State capture of the institutions, of the legislature, which has been completely captured and castrated, and of the judiciary. And all other independent institutions are all under threat.
Odinga is adamant President William Ruto has killed the independence of the National Assembly, a situation that is now threatening the quality of the bills and decisions of the legislature. This, Odinga says, is enabled through intimidations, corruption and poaching of lawmakers from other parties in the House. The judiciary has also come under the radar of the former premier, Odinga accusing the judiciary of bending to the demands of the executive, in the process interfering with its independence.
Judiciary is now making rulings which are in favor of the executive. The executive can threaten you. You saw the senator for Busia, Okiya Mutata, challenging the finance bill in court. And he was told directly by the chief executive of the chief of the executive that you're wasting your time. I am the president of this country. You can never defeat me in court.
Apart from the institutions, the opposition leader is accusing the head of state of curtailing devolution by hanging on functions that are devolved under the Constitution of Kenya.
Health is a devolved system. Now they are going to what they call the community health care system. They want to run from Nairobi. They refuse to give resources to the devolved systems. The counties, you had said should get minimum 15%, but now we're saying they should get 35%. They're not even getting that 15%. You see, the money you're keeping here, you want to go and do it yourself. Community health care. The money you're going to pay there, why don't you give it to the counties?
For these reasons, Raila has made a special appeal to Kenyans to unite and defend the Constitution, warning that if President Ruto is allowed to continue on the trajectory, then the country is staring at a grim political future. Henry Tende, Lookuptv.
The government has assured Kenyans of sufficient security for the 60th Mashujaa Day celebrations in Kericho County Friday. While inspecting Kericho Stadium, Interior PS Raymond Amolo noted that the contractors have raced against time to complete a series of transformative projects in the tea-growing county.
With 3 days remaining for Mashujaa Day celebrations, Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo, while inspecting Kericho Stadium, has assured Kenyans of sufficient security.
We are here again in Kericho as part of preparations for Mashujaa Day celebrations that we will be having on Friday. Now, we have just gone through the rehearsal process. We've seen the military do their drill. The other entertainment groups also perform. just to be sure that we are ready for the big event. And we also want to appreciate the county government of Kericho, not just for agreeing to host this important national event, but also to actively get involved in the preparations, in the planning.
Under the theme Universal Healthcare, Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakuminche has said that her ministry will execute the UHC agenda that will see every Kenyan access quality health services without strain.
Jade tunaisherekea pia tukizindua ile mpango wetu wa Universal Health Coverage ambayo inamaanisha ya kwamba afya imekuja kwa wote, na cha muhimu ni kwamba tumeleta afya nyumbani. Mimi pamoja na wizara yangu tumekuwa hapa Kericho kuanzia jana. Tuko na wahudumu ambao wanafanya afya nyumbani, wale community health promoters. Tumetrain 1,100, tumewapatia kits, vifaa yani zile ambazo watatumia kule nyumbani, vifaa ambazo kila mmoja wao kati yao 1,100, kila mmoja wao ako na kit, kila mmoja wao tumempatia simu mpya, smartphone.
The Friday celebrations will be led by President William RUTO at Kericho Green Stadium in Kericho County. Mevin Getembe, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Chief Inspector. The National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah has tabled a motion at the House seeking the extension of the mandate of the bipartisan committee by 30 more days, as it raises again its time to reach a consensus on all issues as raised in the 5-point agenda. Stanley Lugaria files the report.
The leader of the majority party, Kimani Ichung'wah, on Tuesday before the National Assembly read a notice of motion seeking to extend the role of the National Dialogue Committee by 30 more days, on top of the allocated 60 by the Parliament after the committee agreed on 6 other issues, including embarking on a framework to reconstitute the IEBC, as well as agreeing to expand the membership of the Selection Committee from the current 7 to 9 members, before submitting the final report to President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga.
We resolved in the National Dialogue Committee, Honorable Speaker, to seek an extension of our mandate from the envisaged initial period of 60 days by a further 30 days. And Honorable Speaker, as the motion says and is self-explanatory, we have indeed covered a lot of ground in the last 50 or so days, Honorable Speaker.
To the National Dialogue Committee's term, we are simply exercising abundance of caution, as rightly put by the Honorable Ichung'wah. Because, as a matter of fact, we may not actually need those 30 days. But since we are aware that the Senate is going on recess on the 19th of this month, it would only be advisable that we take this precaution, that we act proactively so that we get this committee given the life it requires to undertake its work to conclusion.
On Friday last week, Co-Chair Kimani Ichung'wah indicated that the committee had agreed on a number of issues, including 2/3 agenda rule, constitutional authorization of the financial divisions, the establishment of the government offices including that of the leader of the opposition, and the Prime Minister, as well as loyalty to political parties.
But we were cautious that we do not come and seek an extension of 2 weeks or 15 days, then we run into problems and have to come to the House again and probably come at a time when the House is on recess. That's why we thought to do this early enough so that we have at least another 30 days to the end of November. But we are certain before the end of November we shall have completed and tabled a report before Parliament and also reported back to the leadership, coalition leadership on both sides for the way forward on the issues that have been at hand.
With less than 15 days left for the lapse of the 60 days allocated from 29th August 2023, and is now expected to complete the dialogues on 26th of November 2023, the committee is expected to finalize the remaining contentious issues, including the high cost of living, review of last year's presidential election results, electoral justice including audit of the 2022 presidential election results, before submitting the report to the leadership of the Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalition ahead of the presentation to the Parliament.
The Houses of Parliament resolved to extend the mandate of the National Dialogue Committee by a further 30 days from 28th October 2023 and consequently the committee shall be required to report to the leadership of Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalitions on or before 26 November 2023 and thereafter submit its report to Parliament. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Stanley Lugaria, Lookuptv.
Yes, and the ayes have it. And they do. So probably it's 30 more days. We talk about that this morning. Let's continue. Azimio leader Raila Odinga, accompanied by other opposition leaders, were on Tuesday blocked from accessing the Mavoko Portland demolition site. The opposition leaders visited the site to assess the situation and speak to the victims. Speaking to the media on the sidelines of the Portland land, Odinga calls out the government for taking away the basic needs of the people of Mavoko at a time when the government is championing affordable housing.
The opposition leaders made their way to Portland demolition site as demolitions enter day 5 today. It is what they term as making a site visit to assess the situation.
We drove through these azimio.
However, the attempts to gain access to the site were met with heavy police presence, with officers of the law armed to the teeth and ready to block the entourage from making its way into the site.
We're going back. I'm telling you, we're going back. There's no need for you to get confrontation.
Attempts to convince them were futile as the police maintained their ground that the site was out of bounds, especially for the opposition leaders.
It's only that it's not timely. Our supporters. It's not timely.
Addressing the press, the opposition leader called out the government for frustrating Mavoko homeowners at a time when it is championing for affordable housing for all.
What is going on here is forced eviction, the exact crime RUTO promised to bring to an end in July last year. It's a gross violation of human rights, the right to adequate housing at a time the administration purports to be working to ensure that everyone has shelter. What's going on here indicates a systematic disregard of recognized human rights standards on the part of the state.
Odinga also called out the manner in which the demolitions are happening and how soon it took for the eviction order to be enforced.
We, as Azimio, we can't let this continue to go on unchallenged. We are determined to ensure that cruel crime is answered for. Somebody will have to take the responsibility for this bestiality. The Kenya Kwanza administration must immediately halt any further demolitions. Must share with the victims and the country the immediate plans to pay compensation for the property that has been unlawfully destroyed and to find alternative settlement for the victims. This brutality will not go unchallenged. This brutality will have to be answered for and accounted for. If the government does not act, we will help the people to act. Azimio.
Thank you. The demolition on Tuesday entered day 5, with tens of homeowners counting losses as their structures were bulldozed to the ground, taking them back to square one.
The affected families, some among the poorest of the poor, and their upcoming middle class, have not only witnessed lifelong savings demolished and crushed to ashes. They have been left to fend for themselves on the streets without basic shelter. Children.
Brian Amwai, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Let's move on. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations has summoned Mavoko Member of Parliament Patrick Makau and 29 others over the irregular sale of Arthur River land belonging to East African Portland Cement, where demolitions are ongoing. Now, the summon comes as the demolitions have received criticism from different quarters. Gail Aluda with the details.
In a letter dated 17th October, the DCI has noted with concern the plea of victims of the ongoing demolitions, inviting Mavoko Member of Parliament Patrick Makau and others to record statements over the illegal selling of land belonging to the East African Portland Company. On 9th October, the court ruled in favor of the East African Portland Cement Company. The DCI later surfaced barely hours after the East African Portland declared intention to sell parcels of land to the rightful owners.
Itakuwa haki hata sisi tungeambiwa hivyo juu hata sisi tuko hapa na wao wako huko. Hata sisi tungeambiwa hivyo tutapewa tununue. Juu hata sisi tungekuwa tayari kununua kuliko kupoteza hiyo mali umepoteza yote, nyumba imebomolewa, wangetuuzia kuliko kubomolewa.
Sasa wewe kama mama utaenda wapi na watoto wako?
Hata sijui nitaenda wapi na watoto. Juu sasa ukienda Athi River nyumba zimepanda. Ulikuwa unapata nyumba unalipa 4,000. Sasa ukienda Athi River single ni almost 8,000. Na huko umezoea kulipa rent. Juu sasa wakati walisikia kuna bomolewa, tulikuwa tumetafuta nyumba huko. Unaenda unapata nyumba hii nyumba inalipwa 4,500. Ila wakati walisikia kuna bomolewa kwenda huko tena nyumba ikakuwa 8,000. Na deposit zinaitishwa ya miezi 2.
For now, victims remain in quagmire with uncertainty about the future as demolitions enter a day 5 today. Alo Dagail for Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Well, this one we talk about that issue. We look at it from the development that has emerged after opposition leader Raila Amolo Odinga essentially tried to visit that property. Also this morning, you got to know that there's something brewing on the sidelines of those talks at the Bomas of Kenya. By the way, for those who've been counting, those gentlemen just had 2 weeks to deliver a draft document that was supposed to guide the country into the next phase of what was going to be political deliberations in the country. Guess what? They're asking for 30 more days, so they want to make it 46 for those who've been counting, because they're only left with 16 days to give us their deliberations. We talk about that, plus many other issues surrounding what Raila Amolo Odinga is terming to be a bad case of judgment and ruling from the Kenya Kwanza government this morning. All right, joining us in the studio shortly, we do have Silas Akibo, who's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and already in the studio we do have William Kamau, who is a political analyst. This morning, get involved and look at TV across all your social media platforms. I myself, I am at Kiage. Good morning.
Are you a civil servant and looking for a financial breakthrough? You can now apply for the salary check-off loan from Juhudi Kilimo, a solution that is available for salaried employees that have a check-off agreement with Juhudi Kilimo. All you need is 3 months latest payslips, a copy of your national ID, 1 recent colored passport photo and your KRA PIN. For more information, call us today on 0709 692 000 or send an SMS to 20103 at no charge. Juhudi Kilimo, investing in farmers, transforming lives.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park, fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Introducing the Kenya Trade Fair Fusion Sales Drive event in the heart of Nairobi at the Kenya National Archives. It's not just an event, it's sales generation with a remarkable return on investment. Get ready to let your booth do the talking as you study new market trends with lots of entertainment featuring traditional live bands, DJs and artists. For vendor registration, call 0724-715-334 or 0713-907-584 or 0723-861-173.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your #1 show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Praise the Lord and Bwana Yesu asifiwe sana. My name is Pastor Josiah. I'm from a ministry called Reconcilers World. God gives strength to the weary. I am, Jesus is speaking. He says, I am the door. Then he says, anyone who enters in through me will be saved. The Lord is my shepherd or shepherd. Then he says, I will always have everything I need. God desires to guide you. He's telling you that this day, don't just trust the Lord, but he's telling you, trust the Lord widely.
So there's a story that is already picking speed in the country, and we've spoken about it this week. Started 5 days ago. Now it is getting momentum in the direction the majority of us would have liked to think it would gain momentum. Yesterday, the DCI is already summoned a member of parliament and top police bosses in the demolitions that are ongoing at that Athi property for EA PLC. But here's the thing though, the Daily Nation this morning has essentially gone back and outlined some of the red flags the majority of the developers of that property ignored leading to these demolitions. I'll give it to you. I don't know whether my director can actually post that newspaper, the front page, so we get to look at it together. Number one, Moses Kuria's warning, if you do remember, by the way, just after assuming office, the then CS, Trade and Industry, Moses Kuria, got into a big fight with Machakos leaders when he was telling them, look, that particular land is for the government, so you gotta go, whether you like it or not. But again, politicized, so nothing really came of it. And if you look at point number 2 in that story, there were lack of titles. They're saying that affected residents say the only ownership documents they had were certificates with a promise of title deeds by the end of this year. Number 3, relatively cheap property. That's point number 3. And they're saying that a local remembered a time when a 50 by 100 plot went for only 50,000. Wow. Only 35 minutes away from the capital on a motorbike and 34 minutes via expressway. This was cheap compared to the other plots in the vicinity, you know? That's what they tell you. Number 4, various notices. Now, they say that the EAPCC has been giving warnings over years in various forms, including on billboards, that all this essentially was ignored by the developers in that property. Now, yesterday, we ran a story then on exactly where we are, and Raila Amolo Odinga then, concerned about the demolitions that were going on in that particular area. And this is an action from the promise of the current Kenya Kwanza government that all demolitions in the country were going to be orderly and humane. So Raila Amolo Odinga decided to visit that property, and he was stopped from accessing that particular property. Let's take a look at that story that was run by Brian Amwai. Come back and then lay a proper conversation on where we are now as regards the demolitions in Athi.
The opposition leaders made their way to Portland demolition site as demolitions enter day 5 today. It is what they term as making a site visit to assess the situation.
We drove through these azimio leaders.
However, the attempts to gain access to the site were met with heavy police presence, with officers of the law armed to the teeth and ready to block the entourage from making its way into the site.
We're going back. I'm telling you, we're going back. There's no need for you to get confrontation.
Attempts to convince them were futile as the police maintained their ground that the site was out of bounds, especially for the opposition leaders.
It's only that it's not timely.
Our supporters.
It's not timely.
Addressing the press, the opposition leader called out the government for frustrating Mavoko homeowners at a time when it is championing for affordable housing for all.
What is going on here is false eviction, the exact crime RUTO promised to bring to an end in July last year. It's a gross violation of human rights, the right to adequate housing at a time the administration purports to be working to ensure that everyone has shelter. What's going on here indicates a systematic disregard of recognized human rights standards on the part of the state.
Odinga also called out the manner in which the demolitions are happening and how soon it took for the eviction order to be enforced.
We, as azimio, we can't let this continue to go on unchallenged. We are determined to ensure that cruel crime is answered for. Somebody will have to take the responsibility for this bestiality. The Kenya Kwanza administration must immediately halt any further demolitions, must share with the victims and the country the immediate plans to pay compensation for the property that has been unlawfully destroyed and to find alternative settlement for the victims. This brutality will not go unchallenged. This brutality will have to be answered for and accounted for. If the government does not act, we will help the people to act. Azimio.
Thank you. The demolition on Tuesday entered day 5 with tens of homeowners counting losses as their structures were bulldozed to the ground, taking them back to square one.
The affected families, some among the poorest of the poor and their upcoming middle class, have not only witnessed lifelong savings demolished and crushed to ashes, they have been left to fend for themselves on the streets without basic shelter. Children.
Brian Amwai, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
That's it. So the development now is that a member of parliament, by the way, the Mavoko member of parliament, who's been quite instrumental in castigating East African Portland Cement Company for not listening to their pleas then to resell this property to the people who had already acquired it, has been called upon and summoned for investigations. Let's begin from there. Mr. Kamau, good morning.
Good morning. Well, how are you?
Fantastic. You see, the thing is now, this story is taking the shape that it should have taken first before going into demolitions.
Yeah.
That yes, regardless of the warnings over and over, like the Daily Nation is highlighting it this morning, all the way from Moses Korea to the various warnings for EAPCC, and even billboards, by the way, warning anybody who wants to buy that property that this land is not for sale. That you feel that it should have started from where it is right now, that the DCI should have acted fast. And then after that, find exactly where the problem is, so that these people in that area could be moved, like Gachagua and RUTO usually say, humanely. But we saw the other way around when it came to handling this particular issue.
The issue of land is a very emotive issue in this country.
Yes.
Because most Kenyans stand in solidarity with victims of such circumstances, because anybody can fall victim of such a menace.
Yes.
And the issue of lands in Kenya has become a cryptomaniac issue. There's a lot of, robbery, uncertainties involved in them. Simba, you and I cannot be involved in such matters. Where do we begin from? It is an issue that if proper investigations are put on, some of the people you see standing there in solidarity with the victims are directly involved. Why? You remember some times back, the governor, the predecessor of Nani, of the current governor of Machakos,
yes,
Mutua, spoke about it. He mentioned about it some times back when they were campaigning, when the campaigns were highly heated. And I've seen Wavinya there. So this is not an issue that you and I will go and grab land and start advertising. First, who approves housing? It is the county government. You want to tell me those houses were approved on stolen land? Someone somewhere knows what is happening.
Yes.
Okay. Moses Kuria spoke about it, and Moses Kuria is proving to be a very truthful man in this country. He said, you guys are sitting on stolen land, and we are going to flatten this land. What happened after there? What initiatives did the government of the day take before demolishing all these investments? Because there were good houses there worth 10 million, even 2 million is quite an investment for someone.
Yes.
So, and you can see the kind of issues that come about with these things in regards to what happened with Uhuru's time. You remember there was a similar occasion?
I do remember.
Where the opposition, now William Ruto and his team, blew that thing out of proportion, and Kenyans became very emotive about it. This is an issue that has the capacity to take an entire government down. Okay? Because it's a replica of what happened in Uhuru's regime. When houses were demolished, it was a time as this, it was a rainy season. So first, you realize that these systems are not just systems that are, these are not robotic systems. These are systems that are run by people with human hearts, with human minds. So the first thing we should have seen any government doing is being compassionate, empathetic towards the people who have put up, the kind of constructions that were put there. We should have seen a more, deliberate, option being given to these guys other than what happened with Uhuru's government.
Yes.
But there was no notice. They just woke up one morning and everything was going down. So what Raila, anybody who has an eye in 2027 to fight William Ruto, this is a good crisis for them. They are not blowing it out of proportion that they should be. Because this is an issue that is able to unite all Kenyans. Because there are so many red flags. There are more questions than answers. You see, the DCI has summoned very senior guys. Why? Because it is obvious there must be very senior people in the system of government at the national level and at the county level who are directly involved. Yes, that is the truth of the matter. And somebody has to take responsibility, as Babaman has said. And someone's career is going down. either for the president up there, like what happened for Uhuru Kenyatta, or the people directly involved. There is going to be a lot of revelation by they coming out of this whole saga.
Yes. Come on. When you look at this particular issue, it is two-faced. And we might look at that side and say, well, even if it's two-faced, then the eventuality, yes, we do agree, is that those guys have to move out of that property, but the process of moving them out of the property is exactly what we're talking about here. But if you look at the other side as well, an issue that even started last year in November 2022, remember that's almost a year down the line, before these demolitions are now taking place, CS Moses Kuria is warning them, lack of title deeds, relatively cheap property, and to the point that even EAPCC put up billboards warning every other person who wants to buy property in that area, like, hey, look here, this land is not for sale. Is there a place in your argument where you want to say, maybe the demolitions that have happened now are justified? Because if it's a year down the line and you're still there, even when the government keeps on telling you, you need to move out, you need to find a way in, but you're still there, then it was right for the government to come in and rein in on those properties.
All right. First, there is no justification to crucify the innocent civilians.
Yes. Would you call them innocent even after this has gone on?
Yes, they are very innocent, because I want to believe that there are people who did a search for that land.
Yes.
There are people who engaged their lawyers. I'm happy we have an advocate today.
Yes.
You can speak on how to acquire properties in this country.
Is it a good time for us to say good morning to Silas?
He can wait a bit. That's my point.
Yes,
before it evaporates.
Yes.
So I want to believe there are people there who engaged lawyers to acquire properties. There must have been some sort of search that was done on the property. There must have been a powerful voice behind the acquisition of the land, telling people, rest assured, this land belongs to us, go do the search. Who issued the certificates in the first place? Certificates is a way of acquiring land. It's a form of ownership. So there must have been a very powerful voice behind the assurance of those certificates. Someone must have assured the innocent buyers that, rest assured, no one is going to touch you. Now, these are the things that should come out in the light of the day during this whole season. And that's why I'm saying this whole saga will come with a lot of revelations and will go down with so many political careers, if not for the president, the people who are directly involved. Because remember, everybody is asked, I saw some videos, they were blaming the president. Yes. If you look at it keenly, it doesn't have so much to do with the president. Okay? But people said you should have been human with this thing. Some of the victims were saying, Mr. President, you should have spoken to these people. No one is speaking about the buyer. No one is speaking about the person who, the lawyers who led them to, doing the search, because I have bought properties. I have bought a property. I know the process of buying a property. So no one is speaking about the process, but everybody is pointing a finger on the president. So this is a very emotive situation, or rather a saga that might unite Kenyans against the government. Same thing, a replica of what happened with Uhuru, because people could not take none of it. Because first, it exposes the man up there like very inhuman. You have no human. In fact, someone called the president a devil worshipper in that video. He said, you say you're a God-fearing man? No, you're not a God-fearing man. Why? Because all this thing is hitting back to the president, because you're the man up there. You should have taken care of us. All this is bypassing the process and the people involved in what it takes to acquire property in this country.
It's a good time then for me to bring Silas into the conversation. Silas, we are looking at what is going on at the Athi property in Athi River, by the way. That is the East African Portland Cement property, where now the story is taking the shape it should have started with before the demolitions. If indeed that promise by one Dr. President William Ruto and his DP Rigathi Gachagua was anything to go by, almost a year leading into this. Now, what we do know now, it's when the DCI started investigations into the sale and the purchases of that property for EA. Right now, Mavoko Member of Parliament, who's been quite vocal in castigating the company for not listening to him, upon him saying, well, we need to sell this land to the dwellers at that particular point. And also, chief police bosses who have also been called upon for investigations. In fact, 30 individuals now have gone in for investigations. They're already at the DCI headquarters. Silas, you believe or you like to think that indeed it should have started from here. But even as we talk about that, Silas, that the red flags were there, the warnings were there. The Daily Nation this morning has put it clear, has given 4 red flags that every other person who owned that property or wanted to purchase that property would have been aware of before getting in. 2 sides of the story. Let's begin from there. Are we ending the way we should have started?
Well, good morning once again. I appreciate that we are where we are today because Kenyans are they're very lazy. That's what I can say. I sit at a position where we engage clients on various approaches towards property acquisition in this country.
Yes.
But you realize that the lawyers and their clients alike, they're lazy. The moment you see a certificate of title, you're automatically convinced or satisfied that the person owns the land.
The property, yes.
But remember, in book, not in practice, in book, we are reminded to make sure that we carry out 2 phases of due diligence. The first phase is to look at the records, the written records.
Yes.
And the second phase is to look at the history. And that is where somebody came and summarized this process of purchase into the following statement. That for you to buy land in Kenya, the following 4 are very important. 1, a lawyer. 2, a land surveyor. 3, land valuer. And 4, a local drunkard. This is the person who will tell you after he's drunk, he'll inform you of the cartels around, the people he has engaged, who has bought him changa, who he has sold to, what parcel of land. But you see, that was his say.
Yes.
In historical land searches, we want to literally know from the villagers there, the neighbors around, from the people around, just going around asking, what do you know about this parcel of land? The elders, those who are aged. And then they will tell you that this particular piece of land, we know it, but it has had a few issues. So lawyers always don't want to go that direction.
Yes.
Clients don't always want to go that direction. But as soon as I am able to provide the certificate, remember the Supreme Court the other day gave a decision, a landmark decision, that a letter of allotment does not confer rights to a property. Some people say, oh, in 1969 when this land was being subdivided to being given, the squatters' land was being given, my father was given the letter of allotment, here it is. After getting the letter of allotment, did you go to the next stage to properly acquire rights to that land? You didn't. Somebody came up, paid the necessary requisite fees, and owned the land rightly, leaving you with your letter of allotment. Supreme Court has said that is not in Kenya. And by the way, Kenyans hear me clearly. If you have not interacted with that decision, a letter of allotment today is not a proof of ownership of land if you do not go the next mile.
Does it?
Now you asked whether we are at the place where we ought to have started with. I believe not.
Tell us why.
The reason is,
yes,
we must have come this mile to be able to fall into this ditch.
Yes.
The ditch was initially not there. What do I mean? This is what I mean. They were innocent buyers. They never knew what was going on. Did they know the collusion between the vendors' advocates? Probably. And the police that you're now talking about have been summoned. They didn't know. Probably the police were not even aware. Maybe just one individual acquired that certificate irregularly,
yes,
and then sought police protection, as they do it in Kenya. So in the process, that means at the beginning, if you were to summon the police officers, probably you might not have found even a single one. Understand what I mean? You might not have found even a single one colluding with the vendor. But the moment the vendor decided to begin sale of that particular property, and maybe the purchaser and the purchaser's advocate started to carry out proper due diligence, and the vendor realized that he's going to be caught in his scheme, then he sought protection. Go to the registrar, please show. There's some registries in this country, for example.
Yes.
You go there and you find there are 2 genuine registers of land. 2 genuine. So this fraudster has colluded with the land registrars. The fraudster has colluded with land registrars. If you as a purchaser proceed there to go and carry out your due diligence, you are given one part of the register, which also points that parcel of land. When the genuine owner comes, he is also shown another part of the register, that your land is safe. But on the other hand, the land is being used by fraudsters in direct collusion with the officers at the registry.
Yes. Well, when you look at this particular issue, and I want to come back to you before we go back to Silas on this one, that when you sit as the company, that is EA, you know, we're talking about East African Portland as if they never saw what's going on in that property. Regardless of what Silas is saying, due diligence has to be done. But as EA, let's imagine the CEO is there. And I know they've been having a lot of issues in the management prior to this. You said that you're saying property coming up in your parcel of land.
Yeah.
You said that there are more subdivisions. You said there is more cutting into your property. Why would we sit for all these years, Kamal? As the company management, up to where an entire community has come up in your parcel of land without ever stopping it. Should we also blame the company that they knew exactly what was going on, and somebody within the company said, I'm going to sit down and eat?
Yeah.
It's not my problem.
Yes. Because of the nature of our systems in this country, Kenyans have an appetite for risk, for taking risks to acquire property.
Yes.
If you go to buy a property and it has some dispute, but you find there are other residents who have put up their houses there and are living there, you know, you easily say, whatever happens, kesi ikikuja, the case will come, we'll deal with it.
Tuko
wengi when we have a property. You know, misery loves company. There is that comfort. We will suffer when we are a group of people. But I want to assure you that it is a subversion of the due process by having a number of point men in every key point of acquiring such legal land. From the owners of land. Remember, this is a company's land, not necessarily a person's land. If it was your land, that could be another issue. But even the CEO knows I'm here for not long. Let me eat what I'm eating right now. This is the Kenya we are dealing with. And the issue of land is it's a cryptomaniac issue in this country. You have to do your due diligence. You have to search even land in heaven. You have to pray and ask God, is this land really, does it belong to these people? You have to do your searches in heaven.
Even when you go there.
Yeah, through a lot of prayers before you commit your money to owning property in this country. Unfortunately, that is the sad state of this country. And it is a reality we have to deal with. Now, the question is, who will protect all these innocent buyers? Because all these people, in all these point places, all they want is to scam Kenyans, innocent Kenyans. So you see, the guys in charge of the land, they have a share. The leadership of the county have a share. The judicial system has a share, okay? Everybody who is directly involved or indirectly on matters land must be thoroughly investigated. From the CEO, from the people who are in charge of the land back then.
Yes.
It is an entire cartel. And that is why Raila is so confident saying somebody has to bite the bullet. Because someone,
Yes.
if it works like a duck, my friend,
Yes.
then it's definitely a duck. If it's a scam, there is no debate about it. Someone did it. And you know what is the most shocking part?
Yes.
You realize, I saw the other, was it last week, that some of these guys who are selling land had put up some structures there just to wow Kenyans. You know, this land is legal.
No,
Even
legal.
guys are living
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
You know, where I come from, Mount Kenya, we say, if you want to trap an animal, trap it with what it loves most. If you want to trap an antelope,
Yes.
if it loves maize, put maize there, dry corn there, it will come. And so because in Kenya there is, everyone wants to own property in Kenya. It is the ultimate, it is the Kenyan dream to own a property, call it your own. And so because there is that trash for property ownership, then all the cartels and all the crooks, all these guys in leadership, unfortunately we have thieves in high places.
Yes.
We have thieves in every office. They will do everything they can to scheme Kenyans, to
Pretty
scam
much.
Kenyans.
Yes.
So when such an opportunity presents itself, rest assured, the very people who can protect Kenyans are very few. And if you stand in between these people protecting Kenyans, your life can even be taken out, my friend.
Silas, you say that argument then by Kamau. Does it nullify your point, saying that well, we have to look at how we got here? That indeed, knowing very well, Silas, we talk about these issues as if they're very big, issues that have to be listened in court. But Silas, if you're the CEO of a company and you get reports that some guys are building in a property without proper documentation, without your authorization, even for the board of EA, I mean, you should be acting as fast as you can to stop the development of those structures. In very few instances, Silas.
Yes.
I've covered this story, by the way, back from 2020. In very few instances did I see the CEO in court or the chair of the board essentially going to court to make sure these guys are moved out of that particular property. It isn't just one or two stories that I've done where they were selling these properties upon the approval of the company. Yes, some people were actually sold these properties. Does that therefore nullify your point by saying that we aren't where we are right now, that the investigations essentially should not be happening right now? We feel that this should have been the first thing then when the company decided, too much. So go to the DCI, know who sold that land, Silas, before you come back and demolish these houses. You can demolish the houses and then come back and now take the people who were responsible to court.
Simba, I want you to look at this thing critically. Who are being investigated? In your first question,
yes,
you told me senior government officials, including senior police officers. I am a Kenyan, a very innocent Kenyan. I want East African Portland's parcel of land. You as a vendor present the documents to me. Probably somebody comes to complain. We proceed to the DCI Land Fraud Unit, Police Department. And the police assures me, the innocent Kenyan, that this land is safe for buying. That's the reason why he is being investigated. There is a CEO and there is my MP. Let us speak political truth. I'm not talking about truth. I'm talking about political truth.
Yes.
You know what political truth is in Kenya? Between the CEO of a company and your area MP assuring you that this land is safe, the CEO saying the land is not up for sale. But my area MP and my area police station, Afande, assuring me that this land is safe.
Hata niko na nyumba huko.
Hata niko na nyumba huko. Be a Kenyan, Simba. Whom will you listen to? In a country of mambo matatu, if the CEO comes up strongly and the politician and the police officer issues mambo matatu to the, don't tell me it's William who is the first person to come. You know, he's the first person to come up with it publicly. But mambo matatu was happening in our police stations. Be careful. Chunga bwana. I've worked with police stations defending clients, and you hear what OCSS speak. You are like, we are second Kenyans. So the CEO comes up, probably. I'm not meaning to defend the CEO, but he comes up to report the issue to the DCI Land Fraud Unit, and then he's told, be quiet. Amba, we'll take the third option. Peleke Sayuni. We've seen abductions, Simba, in this country. So, as an innocent
That's
Kenyan,
a possibility.
yeah,
It's a possibility. Yeah, you can't stand between these guys and money.
Yeah, as an innocent Kenyan, I have proceeded to see land being sold in mass in Athi River, Mavoko, EAPC's land. And then my area MP has assured me. Simba, let me take you back. I one time, before my admission to the bar as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, you know Kenyans, the way they are. The moment you're in law school, they consider you a lawyer.
Marayo.
Because you know that.
Wakili.
So I remember my friends. Yeah, my friends coming to me. They're seeking advice. Because, you know,
and we have smart lawyers who have not gone to school.
You understand the situation? I'm reading this situation. No, of course, I used not to take those instructions. I used to hand them over to my senior. But I remember a friend of mine telling me about this crowdfunding. And the way he was persuaded to join the crowdfunding is because he saw particular high-ranking government officers' images on TV running the adverts that this is a good project. My friend invested close to $500,000. An innocent friend, you know, my friend at the time before I got admitted, that was a very young man. He has really struggled to get that $500,000. And then he's being told now, if you do this investment, we will do what? We will multiply it. But what is the driving force? He's seeing an MP there. He's seeing a CS there. And that's the con game that I found my colleague already speaking about before I joined in. But of course he said that the current state of political affairs in our country is going to go down with many politicians. I disagree with him.
And that's what I want us to get to next.
I disagree
that's
with
the
him.
question that I want us to get to next. But Salas, it's a good thing that you bring it up. And come on, I want to start addressing that particular part. Now, let's see who's involved in this. Gentlemen, if you do remember Wavinya Ndeti last week, I don't want to, I've got no Kamba friends. I need to start looking for a lot of Kamba friends. She was very emotional about this issue. She addressed the president directly. I do not know how to make inference or debunk what she said in a local dialect or what she said when she said awa tu mkono wanao kushika mkono. I do not know exactly what that is. So it's turned now into a political issue. Raila Amolo Odinga is weighing in on it as well. And if you look at majority of the people being marked with the DCI then to go in for those investigations, top members of parliament, Mavoko member of parliament is also involved in it. But when you listen to what he's been speaking throughout, it's been talking about how the company refused to listen to him when he was telling them to sell that land to the dwellers already there, as opposed to evicting them. Wavinya Ndeti as well. Semena, we do not want people evicted. Let's talk about different settlement avenues.
Yes.
Here's what you're saying, Kamau.
Yeah.
That this particular issue is going to go down with other people's political careers.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not like they're saying, you know.
Yeah, it has to.
No, in one way.
Yeah.
In one way.
I've given you a reference of something similar that happened.
Yes.
And the guys in opposition, who was William Ruto and his team, after Uhuru evicted the people in that famous land, he never recovered from that shock. And that is why Raila is not at any time going to let this thing go without his input. He has to come out as a savior of some sort.
Yes.
He has to protect Kenyans politically. Crises are good for politicians. And this is a very good crisis. It's a national crisis. Raila has to appear there. And let me tell you, someone has to take the blame. And most probably it will be the weaker guys. The system does not go for the strong guys because they are the system. It will go for that person who is weak there, who was used by the system. Someone, somewhere has to be sacrificed at the end of the day. Now, woe unto you if you're not powerful enough. Also, if you're powerful enough, the bigger the fish, the more impact it has. If a big fish up there goes down with this whole thing, because when push comes to shove, someone has to take blame for it. Someone has to take responsibility. And the truth of the matter is, the land was illegally acquired. So in a matter where justice reigns supreme, the land goes back to the owners. So what happens to all these guys who invested? What happens to the buyers? What happens to the people who issued the certificates? What happens to the guys in the county, at the county level, who gave certificates of ownership, who approved these buildings? Because when you're building a house, one of the processes or one of the requirements of approving a building, you have to prove ownership.
Yes.
Either a certificate of ownership or a title deed, which is equivalent of ownership. Now, all these guys have certificates of ownership. Who issued them? They are issued at the county level. Who was the governor? Who was running this business? It was a business. It is not the county government that did it. It is somebody who did that as a business.
Yes.
Someone went bought land. From who? Who sold this land to you? Okay, so that calls who land belongs to who in this country? The national government or the county government? So who sold this land? Where did they get this land from? Prove ownership. And that is where I'm telling you, it is an entire cartel of guys, from the judicial system to the Ministry of Lands, to the DCI, to the politicians themselves. They must be directly involved. All these people had shares. And fortunately or unfortunately, this has to go down with some very big people.
Does that?
And it will.
Yes.
Because it's good for Raila. It is good for Babaman. It is good to fight the government. Government might not able to recover from this.
Yes.
Because everybody is looking at William Ruto and his government. What are you going to do about this?
Which is that. Take a minute to respond to this question, by the way, before I cross over to Silas.
Yeah.
At the center of this is a man who's already in the country.
Yeah.
By the way, so I joke somewhere. Was it last week? Yeah, last week started with the fuel price increments. That every other time there's something big happening in this country in one way or another,
The president has to
is
travel
not
out.
in the country. Comes back when the dust is already settled.
Yeah.
Good. Here's the thing. That in this, there's a man who's already here.
Yeah.
Was very vocal about the government's approach in these issues.
On
One
how to
DP,
treat Kenyans. Yeah.
Rigathi Gachagua.
Yeah.
Guess what? Uncharacteristically silent
Yeah.
on this matter.
Yeah.
There is no one point that we've seen the DP come out and make a pronouncement of the issues that are going on at EAPLs.
Yeah.
No.
And he's not about anything.
Number two now, there is a lady there, Governor Wavinya Ndeti. If you do remember, during a campaign, the process also promised that nobody was going to touch them.
Yeah.
Even the likes of Kalonzo Musyoka, by the way, they were together with Wavinya Ndeti when they were saying, well, nobody is going to touch you. This is your place. We want to make sure that you're safe and secure here. The political angle of it. Where does this leave Wavinya Ndeti? Where does it leave now? DP Rigathi Gachagua.
Exactly. Where does it even leave
Yes.
the president
Yes.
himself? I've told you about crisis in politics. This is a big crisis. You do not waste crisis in politics. Okay? And so Raila has seen an opportunity and he's going for them because he knows how systems operate in these countries. He knows someone somewhere is responsible for this. If Raila is able to go for this person, then people start looking to him as the only savior who can help Kenyans on this matter. Because remember, everybody in Kenya is dreaming of owning a land. So if you have a dream of owning land someday somewhere in Kenya, with a Raila presidency, you feel safe and secure because he's able to protect you. Because William Ruto has failed to protect these innocent buyers from their houses being demolished. That is the nightmare of every Kenyan. That you wake up one day and now someone tells you this land belongs to us, you are seated on illegal land, this building has to go down. Now, this is the big question. When this land goes back to the real owners, the Portland Cement Company, where does it leave the investors? Now, let me tell you. These guys will go to a court. Some few people will be found, to have diverted justice and the processes of owning land.
Yes.
They will be out on board. What are talking about? 200,000. Justice denied. Justice delayed is justice denied. These are cases that take 10, 20 years. Even the guys who ate this money from innocent Kenyans will have long died by the time justice is being pronounced. Okay? Because maybe the judge who will pronounce the actual judgment is a child right now who is in class 6, who has a dream to be a lawyer. So she has to be a lawyer first, and then go through all the processes, go to some level, to some mentors,
yes,
tell them how corruption is bad, and then this case will land in their desk 20, 30 years from now. And they will remember, this case was there 20 years ago. This was illegal. So pay these people. The owners will have long died. That is the nature of our country. And so this is politics. Yes. So if Raila is able to capitalize on this thing politically, it is a gain for him.
You tend to disagree.
Sure, I do. Simba, let's be again politically realistic and speak political truth. I said political truth is not the truth.
Yes.
What is the credential of politicians in Kenya? One, you must be a serious and piano liar.
True.
To manipulate the masses.
Kamau agrees with that.
Yeah, you have to be. It's about deception. There's nothing real about politics.
Number two, you must be heavily corrupt. I'm talking about credentials of a successful politician in our religious and Christian country. One is serious lies. Lies that almost look like truth. Two, corruption, and heavy one.
Yes.
And three, you must be a thief. And four, a murderer. Talk about NYS scandal. The persons heavily mentioned, where are they?
They've been released, man.
They're in leadership today.
Majority of them were released this week, by the way.
So that's what I'm saying. The people who are agitating for the rights of the innocent purchasers at the East African Portlands are saints. Their credentials only qualifies them to defend other innocent buyers in the next government. But to see themselves in the next government is next to impossible. That's why I say in Kenya, he is a thief, yes, but he is our thief, PLO says. We will vote him. He is a thief, but he is our thief. We will do what? We will vote him. He is a murderer, we are aware, but he is our murderer. We will vote him. So that in a very fair, free, fair, democratic society, then the vision of my colleague will be realized that many political lives will go down.
Yes.
But in Kenya, as is currently constituted, the thieves will even climb higher and higher in politics. And that is why we cry day and night. First of all, they make our problem look so big when they are looking for political seats. Look at what the president's doing. Look at what Uhuru has done. Until they set up a blaze in a community against the former president. And then when they come into power, 6 months' time, we'll have Stadia. Where are they? In 3 months' time, gas will be 300 shillings. No, I didn't talk about gas. I spoke about the cylinder. Even the cylinder, kuna cylinder at 300 shillings. Even the cylinder alone. So these are the qualities of perfect Kenyan leaders. Yeah. If you don't have those qualities, you're nowhere close to power. You must be able to kill and seriously kill. You must be able to maim. You must be able to corrupt, take from widows, take from orphans. I mean, gather money. The other time somebody was joking that ata El Nino mmeshindwa kudeliver. And then a friend of mine was telling me, Simba, a friend of mine was telling me that, Silas, did you hear about the boats in Nairobi? Did you hear about the boats? Did you hear the government has set aside some money to deal with El Nino? He says that there could have been a call to some sort of sector to give certain information so that certain money be diverted somewhere. It is a possibility. This is our country, and the qualities of our leaders I've told you, corrupt. What do you expect?
Gentlemen, at the point where we are, I should mention to you by this silence, I saw another joke yesterday because of the rains in Nairobi. It's like the first batch of M-Pesa message got to the guy who was given the tender to leave it in. So he said to release the rain for yesterday. So please send him the rest of the money.
Because you know Kenyans will always do.
I want us to move away from this story and talk about another bigger issue the majority of Kenyans are waking up to this morning. But not before we look at the details of this story by that we did yesterday. We'll come and seek your one or two sentiments on it, on exactly then what should happen now. Yesterday we ran this story about how the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has summoned Mavuko Member of Parliament and 29 others. Let's take a look at that story. Come pick one or two sentences on it, go for a break, and come back talk about the bigger issue. Is it a thing that you've been waiting for at the Bomas of Kenya? Whether you've been waiting for or not might take longer. Once we come back, let's take a look at this story.
October, the DCI has noted with concern the plea of victims of the ongoing demolitions, inviting Mavoko Member of Parliament Patrick Makau and others to record statements over the illegal selling of land belonging to the East African Portland Company. On 9th October, the court ruled in favor of the East African Portland Cement Company. The DCI later surfaced barely hours after the East African Portland declared intention to sell parcels of land to the rightful owners.
Itakuwa haki hata sisi tungeambiwa hivyo, juu hata sisi tuko hapa na wao wako huko. Hata sisi tungeambiwa hivyo tutapewa tununue. Juu hata sisi tungekuwa tayari kununua kuliko kupoteza hiyo mali umepoteza yote, nyumba imebomolewa, wangetuuzia kuliko kubomolewa.
Sasa wewe kama mama utaenda wapi na watoto wako?
Hata sijui nitaenda wapi na watoto. Juu sasa ukienda Athi River nyumba zimepanda. Ulikuwa unapata nyumba unalipa 4,000. Sasa ukienda Athi River single ni almost 8,000. Na huko umezoea kulipa rent. Juu sasa wakati walisikia kuna bomolewa, tulikuwa tumetafuta nyumba huko. Unaenda unapata nyumba hii nyumba inalipwa 4,500. Ila wakati walisikia kuna bomolewa kwenda huko tena nyumba ikakuwa 8,000. Na deposit zinaitishwa ya miezi 2.
For now, victims remain in quagmire with uncertainty about the future as demolitions enter a day 5 today. Alo Dagail for Lookuptv, Nairobi.
That's the state. You see, when we interviewed those guys at that particular property, they were saying that I wish you would have told us then. We would have bought you know, like buying from us, you know, proclaim.
Yeah.
But then come and tell us that we're going to buy. It's when now the company is saying, well, part of that land, 907 acres in total, has been earmarked to be sold to the residents already there. And they're saying that priority is going to be given for those guys who are already there. Essentially taking an upside-down approach that we're going to come in and demolish, and then later on, when there's a crisis, we're going to tell you we're going to give you 14 days, and then give you that opportunity to buy. So it's the question that we should be asking here then, Kamau, is just take 2 minutes on this and also 2 minutes for Silas before we go on a break. What should happen now from the government side?
It's just get the whole process right for acquiring properties in this country. In such criminal activities, they are 99-100% right.
Yes.
You just miss out on the 1%, which makes it the entire thing wrong. You know, we say the truth, if the truth is not 100% right,
yes,
even 99.9 of the truth can never be right. The devil is always in the details, okay? It has now proven that even due diligence in this country is not enough. So what do we do as a country? We need some brilliant MPs. Just put some nice policies. Let this be laws in Kenya, that this is the guideline of buying properties in this country. But unfortunately, it will not happen because it is not me, it is not him, it is not you who are caught up in these sagas. It is powerful, well-connected people.
Yes.
This is where they raise their money. But the politics does not pay. A salary is not enough for a politician because you have an entire village, an entire sub-county that is expecting to share in your salary. So what do? You have to do shoddy deals. You have to steal.
Yes.
You have to do all these manner of things so that now you, like what he said, this is our thief. You remember, I don't want to mention names, but people in the just concluded elections, they were saying, this is our thief. He steals and comes shares with us. Just like what he has said. Nothing has changed. People are waiting for their thieves to come and share the loot with them. And this will be the popular thieves on ground. Okay? So they will steal from you. So when they are done stealing from out there, there is nothing else to steal. Now they will steal from you. And there is nothing you can do about it because now they are so popular, they have bought everyone. So we need some very genuine leaders who can put some very nice policies at parliament for acquiring land in this country.
Pretty much.
So that now we protect these Kenyans because, as I said earlier on,
yes,
every Kenyan's dream is to own a property. Let's protect to an extent of, what do you say, like you can patent a process that it has to be followed to the letter when it comes to, you know, it is a sad story that Simba, you work at Lookuptv for 15 years before you get 5 million to go and invest land somewhere. Then put a house for another 10 million. Your entire savings, your entire life goes down the drain. Okay? At the end of the day, you get to the court, there is no justice for you. The person responsible for doing that comes out on bail of 100,000. That case takes 20 years. By the time true justice is being rendered, you are long gone. So let's protect Kenyans. Who can do that? It is the very same people who are stealing from us. Yep.
Pretty much.
There is no hope for this country unless we become the hope banner.
Silas, I want us to take a tiny breather. Once we come back, I'll be picking your final sentiments on this story. Then before we move into the next story this morning, the bigger one that Kenya should be talking about this morning, what is going on at the bipartisan talks and the bombers of Kenya. By the way, if you're wondering, then Kalonzo was not there yesterday. Kalonzo wasn't there yesterday. He was in... Come on, Kalonzo wasn't there. Once we come back, we talk about it, but the chair from the other side was not there. Once we come back.
Looking for experts in waterproofing systems, concrete admixtures, flooring systems, refurbishment solutions, roofing, sealing and bonding, and building finishing systems? Look no more, as Simba Kiage got you covered. With over 113 years of experience, we offer our customers a comprehensive one-stop shop experience and the best technical support. Our products are available in all leading hardware stores and building merchants across the country. Call us today on 0711 140 232 or 0786 140 834 or email us on sales@ke.sika.com. Simba Kiage, building trust.
Today we are hosting the RUTO Foundation as they do a food distribution to the community. The community involves people from Huruma. Huruma is where we have the home for the aged. So quite a population from the home are getting the gift packs. Most of our children come from Githogoro and Huruma. These are informal settlements. Honestly, these parents have not been working. The number of children that will come to me, even the ones who are not in school, and tell me, Mwalimu, we have not fed for 3-4 days, is quite huge. So this will go a long way. A family that has not fed for 3 days, they will at least get a meal. We also thank RUTO. This is the second time that you're coming, and it always makes a difference. It always makes a difference.
Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
Are you a junior secondary school, a college, a TVET institution, or a university, and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lima,
Ian Keitani, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight, only on Lookuptv.
Welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Kiage. In case you are just joining us, we're talking about the issues that are taking center stage in the economy today as we look forward to the Mashujaa Day's preparations. By the way, the president will be back then, so probably is going to talk about this issue that we're talking about this morning, isn't it? You would expect that will be an agenda item. You like to think so. As in China. We've already told you exactly what he's doing in China. Championing for more expansion of SGR once the rest of East Africa connected. Good thing. But just before we went on break, we were talking about what then should happen now that it looks like the DCI is reading foul play from within the company and the law enforcement agencies in that area. So let's take 2 minutes. What should happen then? Now that we know that the DCI knows very well there was foul play in the entire process of acquisition and buying of property in that area.
Short term,
yes.
Compensation for genuinely innocent buyers. that should really be looked into by the government.
Yes.
And on this, I tend to agree with Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasser Grandamola. If you look at his tweet, I think it was yesterday or the other day, his post on X, he stated that the victim of this land saga should organize themselves into a group, and they put up a class action suit against whoever's that can be involved. But I also want to underline a statement within the post and look for honest lawyers, an advocate of integrity. There is no integrity in the legal profession. Very few will you find.
That's so scary.
Yeah. Yes. Very scary statement, you know. Because most of the time you'll find that councils are money-oriented. The other day when you saw in the Senate when Cliff Mbeta's client, Wakili Cliff Mbeta's former client, came up and just told the Senate that my presence here is not connected to the investigations that are undergoing. I just want kutoka nje. Nilimpea 1.5. Whether it is true or not, I don't want to know. But you can obviously put the statement into context.
Yes.
So if you look for honest advocates,
yes,
they're there, but they're very few. I must tell you that.
Where do you stand yourself?
Myself? Maybe you'd call one or two of my clients, they will tell you.
All right.
I don't want to blow off my trumpet,
Yeah.
but I pride myself to be one of the advocates of integrity.
All right.
I wouldn't bulldoze your finances.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So and then and the long term,
yes,
people must be brought to book, and shake-up has to take place.
That's it.
Anybody who got his hand or her hand involved in this, whether uniformed or not,
yes,
whether in the registry of lands or not,
yes,
whether in government or not, if it's an MP, the masses should recall their MP. You have the power constitutionally to recall your member of parliament who is not protecting your interests and instead leading you into a ditch. Those should be long-term solutions. Short-term solutions, class action, let's get our compensation back, including the resources you used to construct the house, the developments you made around there. Put everything together in book, make proper calculations, get your advocate or advocates,
yes,
and tell them that for me, my house was this much, this is what I used here, inclusive of the purchase and the development you've made over that period of time.
Yes.
And then proceed to court. The ELC court will actually render justice to you people.
Pretty much. Good. Gentlemen, I beg, for the sake of time,
Yeah.
we put this subject to bed.
Okay.
Hopefully then, we wait for an address, probably, instead of the national address on Friday. And I like to think that probably we'll touch on issues like this, or we just focus on Mashujaa. He said that every other celebration that we're going to get into this country is going to be thematic. We have known what the theme of Mashujaa Day celebration is going to be. We have known.
Not yet.
So hopefully
it should be integrity.
It should be integrity.
It should be integrity.
Should be
Yeah.
integrity.
That's the only thing we need in this country, integrity. That's the only miracle we need in this country.
Of course, not
Pretty
from
much.
people of questionable integrity.
That's why I call it a miracle.
All right, gentlemen, I want us to move into the next story, but there's a big story. Now, just before we went on break, we were laughing when we saw Kalonzo Musyoka at that property yesterday. We said, wow, guy, this Kalonzo Musyoka, he has a daily job at the Bomas of Kenya.
Yeah.
In fact, if the rumors are true, there's an allowance, there's a daily allowance that they get. They requested for 106 million shillings for the first 30 days, 60 days of the process. I don't know whether he got that allowance yesterday because he didn't appear at the Bomas of Kenya. Good. So let's talk about this story then. Now, the National Assembly Majority Leader, Kimani Ichung'wah, has tabled a motion at the House seeking the extension of the mandate of the bipartisan committee by 30 more days as it races against time to reach a consensus on all the issues as raised in the 5-point agenda. calling it 5-point agenda, but it's not. Let's look at this story by Stanley.
The leader of the majority party, Kimani Ichung'wah, on Tuesday before the National Assembly read a notice of motion seeking to extend the role of the National Dialogue Committee by 30 more days, on top of the allocated 60 by the Parliament after the committee agreed on 6 other issues, including embarking on a framework to reconstitute the IEBC, as well as agreeing to expand the membership of the selection committee from the current 7 to 9 members, before submitting the final report to President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga.
We resolved in the National Dialogue Committee, Honorable Speaker, to seek an extension of our mandate from the envisaged initial period of 60 days by a further 30 days. And Honorable Speaker, as the motion says and is self-explanatory, we have indeed covered a lot of ground in the last 50 or so days, Honorable Speaker.
To the National Dialogue Committee's term, we are simply exercising an abundance of caution, as rightly put by the Honorable Ichung'wah. Because, as a matter of fact, we may not actually need those 30 days. But since we are aware that the Senate is going on recess on the 19th of this month, it would only be advisable that we take this precaution, that we act proactively so that we get this committee given the life it requires to undertake its work to conclusion.
On Friday last week, Co-Chair Kimani Ichung'wah indicated that the committee had agreed on a number of issues, including 2/3 agenda rule, constitution authorization of the financial divisions, the establishment of the government offices, including that of the leader of the opposition, and the Prime Minister, as well as loyalty to political parties.
But we are cautious that we do not come and seek an extension of 2 weeks or 15 days, then we run into problems and have to come to the House again and probably come at a time when the House is on recess. That's why we thought to do this early enough so that we have at least another 30 days to the end of November. But we are certain before the end of November we shall have completed and tabled a report before Parliament and also reported back to the leadership, coalition leadership on both sides for the way forward on the issues that have been at hand.
With less than 15 days left for the lapse of the 60 days allocated from 29th August 2023, and is now expected to complete the dialogues on 26th of November 2023, the committee is expected to finalize the remaining contentious issues, including the high cost of living, review of last year's presidential election results, electoral justice, including audit of the 2022 presidential election results, before submitting the report to the leadership of the Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalition ahead of the presentation to the Parliament.
The Houses of Parliament resolved to extend the mandate of the National Dialogue Committee by a further 30 days from 28 October 2023, and consequently the committee shall be required to report to the leadership of Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalitions on or before 26 November 2023 and thereafter submit its report to Parliament. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Stanley Lugaria, Lookuptv.
There it is. The ayes have it. So, let's begin like this, Kamal.
Yeah.
In that constitution, for the talks, it looked well outlined that they needed 60 days and they were bound within those 60 days. Yeah. There are 15 days left. It's actually 2 weeks.
Yeah.
As of today, they only have 40. They were supposed to only have 2 weeks to deliver.
Yeah.
But then we've seen them ask for an extension. It's not the very first time that I've seen political analysts look at it and then say, you see, they're going to come back and ask for more time. They're going to come back again and say, well, you see, we're going on with those conversations, or 1 or 2 issues are the only ones that we have left. Yeah. As we sit here today, what we do know is that that committee received a flurry of suggestions and recommendations from Kenyans and different lobby groups on a flurry of issues. Yeah. In fact, one person asked, did we get it wrong by not sticking to that 10-point agenda that we were only supposed to receive recommendations based on the issues that were raised on both sides?
Yeah.
Now then, one more time. Come on, what do you read into this?
There can be only two possible scenarios in this,
Yes.
in this case.
Yes.
One being, as a politician, always think like a politician. All these people are holding political spaces. A successful politician is one who will always be ahead of his opponent. What do I mean? In this case, keep your 2027 enemies very busy. Keep them close. Do not give them the luxury of coming together and being what you are in 2017 to 2022. William Ruto started campaigning for his presidential seat as early as 2017, immediately after the elections were done. Okay? And that's how he became the president. And you know he barely won by 200,000 votes.
Yes.
And so Kenya Kwanza will not allow any other person who is ambitious to replace them in 2027 to be a William Ruto or a Kenya Kwanza as early as of now. So we keep them close.
Yes.
Make them busy. Give them some perception that they are close to power. We can have a negotiation. Buy time. You know, they are about to go for a recession. So by the time they are bouncing back, time has gone. Before they catch up, so do we go for a referendum? Time is way past gone. William Ruto, by the time, in 2028, William Ruto knew what he wanted in this country, and he had hit the road running. If Raila and Kalonzo are William Ruto's biggest threat of 2027, you have to keep these guys busy. You must not give them the luxury of coming together and discussing the things that they are supposed to be discussing 1 year to the election. Don't give them a chance to agree on those things. No. Don't allow these people to start campaigning. That is one possibility. Number two, I have seen where I come from, Mount Kenya, they have started talking about something called one man, one vote, 1 shilling.
Yes.
And they are saying if so and so is not involved in those talks, if these issues are not discussed in those bipartisan talks, then we don't have talks here. So this is an opportunity again for these politicians to popularize themselves at the ground level, that they have spoken about Mount Kenya and even other regions about their interest. Because now Kenyans are waking up to the reality of politics. It has to be about our interests. And so it also gives these politicians a chance to be able to go campaign in 2027 or be in between now and say that in those bipartisan talks, I raised A, B, C, D for our people.
Yes.
So I deserve to represent you in the next house. So for me, those are the only two possible explanations in this whole thing. One is buy time. Don't allow these guys to come together. Don't give them time. You know, create that misunderstanding that don't allow them to come together and discuss 2027 politics. No. They cannot be better than us. Don't allow them to be better or be successful in where we were successful. The other one is about the interests of the of where people of these leaders come from, where yes, whether they will have brought something substantial. Like for me, I am very interested with what happens in those talks for Mount Kenya. Because where I come from, we say charity begins at home. I will have to ask myself, what is it in for the people of Mount Kenya in these talks? Yeah, before I think about my brother and his region, I have to think about myself. So I have to question the integrity of the people who are representing us in those talks.
Yes.
Because I'm thinking like one of them, if I had the position to sit there, I would come up with very popular initiatives or suggestions for my people so that I can go back again to my people.
That's it.
Yeah. Again, let me finish, because remember, from this from this bipartisan talks, we are going to shape the next phase of our politics up to 2027. So if you miss out a point, you don't have the luxury of going back and saying, hey, because we will ask you, why didn't you raise that when you had the chance to do that? Because now we are discussing about a possible referendum where we are going to change the constitution. Yeah.
I'll be coming back to you because even as we speak about the possibilities come out, there's some issues they've agreed on. They've agreed on the creation of the oppositional office. They've agreed on embedding the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary in our constitution. They've also agreed on how they're going to reconstitute IEBC in the running to February next year, because they got to do that.
They have to do it.
Salas, let me begin with you. I mean, you're a man of law. Help us understand. If we create a constitution, remember the talks had a constitution as well. It was well there too. And they said, well, it's got to be 60 days. And if you do remember, Raila Amolo Odinga was not even for this 60 days. No. He wanted a month. But the issues are here. Let's talk about them. Agree on them right now. Move out. He said, as fast as we can. In fact, if you do remember, there were even complaints about how the talks were delaying to begin. All right? Before we could fully realize the constitution. Let's understand. Help us understand. When you write a constitution, and then 1 month later, you amend that constitution, on the foresight, Silas, what does that indicate?
You say, Simba,
yes,
if the constitution that you create as a country has got the ability to be mutilated in not so long a period of time,
yes,
then it speaks well of the integrity or the intellect of the drafters of the document, or the greed and political pursuit and political goodwill, which would be either negative or positive, of the current crop of leaders. But as we know it, a constitution should be a very sacrosanct document a country has, that people really need not to see or look for ways or avenues of mutilating it shortly after its promulgation. If you think about that, then you'd rather delay the process of promulgating it, make sure that all your societal inclinations are properly included and captured within the statements or the dictates of that piece of document. Think of the United States of America's Constitution. It's very old, one of the oldest in the country, in the world. But its amendments have occurred very few times. And that is what makes the law looks a lot more of integrity. But now, look at it this way. I would occasionally, because I try to listen a lot what we feed out there to our people from your station here.
Yes.
My colleague really enjoys and claps at the outcome of the NDC, National Dialogue Committee, particularly for the people of his region, before he looks at what comes out for the people of his colleagues' region. you get that, huh? You get that. But remember,
Yeah.
when I go to Kisumu, even now, even if I go with him to Kisumu, we will find so many Mount Kenya people in Kisumu today. There were a few, but right now, courtesy of the handshake between Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and the former PM, there are so many. There's one time I was riding a boat on the lake, and then I was like greeting the people on the other side of the boat in the local dialect. And then I only heard Atherere.
Yeah.
Ni mwaliko nikisema okay, and it's a full boat. So and then the other time I was in Nyeri. Taking care of a matter at the Nyeri Law Courts.
Yes.
And then I found the guy who was next to me on that vehicle of proceeding to Nyeri was from Kisii. And he says he has a home in Nyeri. And I remember a few of my friends, after that court process, I went to greet friends of mine down from home in Nyeri. What do I mean? That my colleague and I ought to ask the question, what is the outcome of the NDC for our country?
At the national level and at the regional level.
But not for my regional, for his region, because my region's people are in his region, and his region's people are in my region, and at that, Kenyans are in Kenya. So what is the bipartisan? No, I know it's really agitated.
No, I'm not agitated. In fact, I want to agree with you.
Okay,
I want to agree with you at a very big extent.
Yes.
When I think about the people of my region, I am talking about the Luos in my region. I am talking about the Luyas in my region.
You are amending based on his...
No. You see, when we have leaders in that bipartisan thought, who are thinking about Nyanza, then if my people, Kikuyus, are in Nyanza, and Nyanza is well taken care of, they will prosper in Nyanza. They will prosper in Nyanza.
So let me proceed. I thank you, Simba. You've seen the amendment without a national dialogue.
Our people in Nyanza will prosper in Nyanza if the leaders of Nyanza think about Nyanza.
The keyword that Mwalimu Julius Kibarage Nyerere brought to Tanzania, that man achieved a lot with few words. Ujamaa. Kuna siji Wachaga, Wanini, Wasukuma. But in Tanzania you will not hear about ethnicity.
Now, we are talking about interests. Those are two different things, Cyrus. Interest and ethnicity, those are two different things, my brother.
Well, I get what you are talking about. Now, we are talking about here, what is the outcome of the National Dialogue Committee for our country as Kenya? That is Simba. That is what I'm actually focusing on. Because you do not know, Simba. Tomorrow, I'll be employed by the government. Then sent to Garissa. I am suspended from my community for a period of 15, 30 years. Or even worse of all, the forgotten employees. 65 years, you retire while you're in Garissa. By that time, I've only enjoyed my community a very little while, maybe during the holidays. Or worse of all, not worse of all, fortunately, I found that my colleague has really made sure that his community is prospering.
My region,
His region. And then I'm posted to Nyeri, we talk about Waiguru's region. It's called Muranga.
Waiguru is in
Kirinyaga. Or I'm posted to Muranga. Then I enjoy the beauty there.
You come there and enjoy one man, one vote, one shilling. You will enjoy. You will not be excluded.
And then he also is posted back to Kisumu.
That's it.
I will enjoy the benefits of the people of Kisumu.
You understand what I'm saying? But let me proceed. So now, by the mere fact that I partly agree with him by saying that could be the president has put a ploy here to keep the opposition busy.
Does it?
So that they do not make a lot of unnecessary noise.
Yes, that's what I want to ask a question again.
Yes.
That is Opiyo Wandayi.
That's true.
Is agreeing to that particular proposal from Kimani Ichung'wah. He's agreeing. Does that not nullify that aspersion of, well, there's a ploy from the president just to keep the opposition busy?
Kenyans are not fools, Simba. This is their saying. Politicians are friends.
They didn't look like they were friends when they were going to that table, Silas.
Of course.
I mean, every other person going by...
To make the table necessary,
yes.
To make the table necessary, and to win the hearts of Kenyans on the necessity of the table, they must pull from different ends. Then once they are on the table, now we look at each other. What is the benefit?
If you partly agree, Silas, I'm gonna come back. If you partly agree that indeed it is the interests that are getting presented on that particular table, then those gentlemen must not be friends. We've seen headlines where they fought in a particular house. So they can't be friends. Why are they agreeing for more time when from the opposition side, the faster it moves, the better it is for the opposition?
Yeah, you know, Simba, like I will always reiterate these statements.
Yes.
We look at this thing, the political truth aspect of it. Political truth. And the political truth here is politicians are no enemies, especially when they are in their area of work, their fields of work. But when they come out here to the masses, they must pull differently. In line with the division they have caused us. I was actually, you know, I partly grew up in Kericho. And let me tell you, there is no community as loving as the Kalenjin community. I will tell you that for a fact, because I grew up there. But when it comes to the political timelines, political periods, your friend who drank tea in your house in the morning, or your friend you fed tea in the afternoon, will not be your friend the next moment William Ruto will speak against his community, or the next moment Raila will speak against your community. But the period from after acceptance of the election outcome to the next general election, Simba walk to any ethnic community in this country. Tell me if you not be welcomed. Tell me if you not do business. Tell me if your house will be touched. Only politics divides us. So these people have really mastered that aspect. That when they come out to the masses, to us, when they come out to us, they must speak a divisive language. So that we may know, Opiyo Wandayi is now pulling our shots, is calling our shots, is really into our interests. Kimani Ichung'wah is really on the Kikuyu interest. He's seriously agitating for 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 whatever vote. But when they sit together on the table, after that altercation, public altercation, you will find them in the same hotel rooms, booking same air tickets, going wherever they're going, enjoying whatever they're enjoying. Sometimes even sharing same girlfriends, you may never know.
Come on.
Simba, allow me to say this. Politicians agree and disagree on interests. It is only that interests differ when they disagree. And so what happens now is that we Kenyans have woken up to the realization that politics is about interests. So when you're thinking about your interest, we peg our interest on your leadership. Because you will be here today, tomorrow you're gone. So I am looking at these talks. What is it in for Mount Kenya? Because this phase is going to shape the next phase of our politics. Okay? What are the discussions that will happen about Mount Kenya? Because these politicians are in power right now. They are the benefits of being a politician. What are the benefits of the people down there? And so if the people of Nyanza realize the guys they have sent in politics or in power is about interest for them, they need to peg their interest for the region on these guys who have the pleasure to be able to push for their interest right now. If a community and a region pushes for their interest, then the politicians lose their relevance on politics. So when they come on ground, they don't come to excite us on politics, on why we fight. Why do I have to fight my brother from Luo Nyanza? Simply because someone from Mount Kenya who is in politics, who is in leadership, said something about them.
Yes.
And yet if right now I need a K to fuel my car, I can't call my leaders, I will ask him for that 1K. Is that 1K written, this is from a Luo? If I need blood right now, if a Luo has my blood type, it is that blood type that will save me. So let's go beyond the politics of shenanigans to the politics of interest. Let all leaders are, what is the essence of a leader? It is to push for the interest of the people who put them in power. If we do not have one man, one vote shilling conversation in these bipartisan talks, then I miss the whole point of those talks. Yes, because that is what will benefit me as a person from the region.
And Simba, just a minute. Yeah? Remember, we should not lose focus as a country that we have a common heritage and that the resources of the country are for the benefit of the country. And that's why our wise forefathers came up with a statement of equitable, not equal, but equitable share of natural resources.
And national.
And national resources. So that's why I agree with him. If Kiambu County has 5 million people and Migori has 1 million people, there is no point in which 4 million people in Kiambu will suffer because a few of the resources have been taken to Migori to make the division equal, not equitable. And so, I would still look at the NDC in terms of a national view. Because Simba, tomorrow Lookuptv will have a branch in Turkana. And you'll be told you've done well in Nairobi. Go ahead, look at Lookuptv where? In Turkana. And then you saw your family there, raise the children there, you only come back home to be buried. Many years, of course. I'm not saying now. Many years, maybe when you're old. So if we as Kenyans have a realization that I can live anywhere, sometimes be buried anywhere, because they are public cemeteries. There are points you live in a given particular community and town, eat, die, well-fed, and be buried there. Not even go back home. Those circumstances are there. And so, we should be able, just a minute, just a minute. We should be able to give our public participation, to give our public engagement, to give our national engagement, the national face.
But gentlemen, that's why I started like this. I think from the same point that you guys are coming from the same point. Come on, that's why I started like this. I mean, we are asking for more time based on what?
Oh yes.
You and I saying we might not even need that time. That we are asking for.
Yes.
That we just want to be pretty sure. But based on what? And that's why I started that even these issues for subdivision of Kiambu into more counties or giving them more money or give them more money as well. Essentially came on the sidelines of the other proposals that we really wanted to discuss. Come on, we did not have a problem with us saying the office of the opposition, the stopping of the government from infringement of political parties in the country, the cost of living, and the other issues that they raised. Every other person was okay with it. Until we never ring-fenced those issues. In fact, you couldn't be talking about the one-man vote, 1 shilling, here today, at the NDC not being an open dialogue. We are asking for more time based on what? Is it because the issues that, the 5 issues that we're talking about this morning are not essentially national issues? Come on.
Yes. Of course, there must be a realization that people have, the guys in charge have woken up to. And one of the major realizations is that these talks are going to shape the next phase of our politics.
Yes.
And so there are things that have not been captured that need to be captured. And actually, I am encouraging that. I'm in agreement with that. Let's extend time so that now everybody is given a platform on the things that had not been raised to be raised. Okay.
But come out, why now?
Why now?
Why now?
Because...
I mean, last year, but just hold on, Kamau.
Yeah.
When we're speaking to the opposition, and I want to remind you, Kamau, even when you're talking about this personal interest,
yes,
it is something that was drummed up by one Raila Amolo Odinga in his BBI champion. It's like, well, guys, listen. Some counties in this country are very big. So let's change that revenue sharing model to one vote, 1 shilling. But it was told, no, we don't want BBI. Why is it that now is the time that we need to extend more time when Raila Amolo Odinga doesn't want to talk about that anymore? Raila Amolo Odinga wants to talk about the opposition, the getting represented in government. He wants the government to stop infringement of political parties. It wants to talk about the cost of living, not the one man, one vote that the government essentially say no to.
Yeah, there must be some re-evaluation of whatever has been achieved so far.
Yes.
And so it should not catch anybody by surprise. We are dealing with politicians. These are politicians. These are not saints. These are not people who think about me and you. These are people who put their interest first before they put our interest. So they must have realized something, and they are now re-evaluating the timelines. They say, we have not captured this. We have spoken about this, but as the talks were going on, we realized we needed to discuss. That is the only possible explanation. There is something in it for them.
That's it. Is it by design then
Yes.
that indeed and that's why I started by saying, well, was that Constitution weak? The Constitution for the talks.
Yeah.
We opened it.
The Constitution is made by people for the people.
Yes.
It can be changed any time, especially when their interests are not captured, not necessarily ours.
Yes.
Yes. And so they have woken up to some form of realization. They have realized, hey, something, kuna mahali tunaweza kuwa tumejichenga, or we need to do this. And that's why I'm telling you, this again is a political strategy.
Yes.
You have to be one step ahead always of your opponents.
Yes.
If you keep these guys busy and engaged, you will never give them the time to put their house in order. It is a possibility. Never give them the time to come together and discuss about 2027 politics and start running with that. You see, if Raila wants to beat William Ruto in 2027, or Raila, or Kalonzo, they have to do better in terms of politics than what William Ruto did in 2017 to 2022. They have to outdo his smartness in politics. And so don't give these people the chance to come and analyze William Ruto's moves, what made him president, by giving them time to agree and disagree when they should not be doing that. Buy them time. Let them, buy time. One of the things that never made Raila president is 6 months to election, they did not even know who was going to vie. There was, he's going to support Kalonzo, Raila is going to run. There was no form of agreement. By the time they were agreeing who is going to run and who is going to deputize who, time was far much gone, and the ground has already shifted to William Ruto. And that's why last time I was here, I told you William Ruto ran a very successful campaign for 5 years, that it almost looked like a miracle for him to be a president. But it was nothing short of strategy and planning and running with a strategy. And that, if he knows that is what made him president, as a smart politician, you must not give your opponents such a chance. Yeah.
Here's the question that I want to ask on that. And Silas, that's what I said by saying, should we look that constitution? That was it by design? That somebody sat somewhere, just like Kamau is saying, that somebody sat somewhere and said, you know what, make it open. Because if you talk about the 10 issues, they're very fast to get done and dusted with. Make it open. Tell Kenyans we are opening a channel for discussion of the country's issues. Any other thing that you think about. Sharon Gay woke up in the morning and said, well, give the president a 7-year term.
A 7-year term, yeah.
Because we made it possible. And that became a conversation. Some very smart gentlemen in this country said, well, remove the power of impeachment from the Senate. Give it to the people, where the people elected our president. Some gentlemen came in and said, well, Kiambu is a big county. Divide it into 3 counties. Some people say, well, create more constituencies in this country.
That's
Some of them
my
are
former
very
governor
big.
Nyo
That's
spoke
it.
about it, yeah.
That's it.
Mm.
You get it? To the point that, Silas, that somebody somewhere said, well, those gentlemen are going to have it rough to agree on those issues within that particular timeline. If indeed the story has been keep them busy, like Amao is saying, then it's true, Silas, that they will be busy, and them being busy will not even stop after 30 days extension.
You know, Simba, why I say that it is difficult to read the contemplate and keep them busy in the NDC, because the timelines is actually short. I want to believe that the person who actually mastered that politics of keeping the opponents busy was the former president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Because you see, one, he brought him this side and silenced his voice. And two, sent to AU. So it was busy the other side. But now we're talking about keeping somebody busy for purposes of 5-year term within 60 or 90 days that they now want. It's very difficult to read that aspect from the NDC.
Yes.
But the NDC could be a genuine concern, because the issue of constitutionality has been in talks, not only in this government.
Yes.
It started somewhere around 2017, when they were eyeing the Constitution's first decade to find out, evaluate whether the Constitution has served its purpose in the first 10 years. And so we looked at the BBI, which was shot down, and the ruling that shut down the BBI is still there. And key within that ruling was that every amendment must be presented as an individual constitutional question. I don't know how they're going to go about that, because they're now putting us into more than 5 constitutional questions. And so I would say that at that they shot their own feet. Now we are here 13 years down the line since we promulgated our Constitution. And the only thing I can see here from where I sit is to agree with the former AG, Professor Githu Muigai. There was a statement of his presentation at the NDC, and he talked about our leadership structure being overly crowded.
Yes.
And there's need for more reduction as opposed to increment. And so some people look at Majimboism in terms of number of people per given region. Some look at it geographically.
Yes.
Kiambu is very big. I don't know whether it is in terms of the people, because it is big both in terms of people.
No, it's one of the smallest counties in terms of sizes.
In terms of sizes. Yeah. So if we look at it in terms of people, the number of people,
it's one of the biggest.
Then
the biggest.
Very big.
It's actually the biggest.
Yeah. Very, very
big.
Yeah. So that means they're going to be a smaller regional splits. And remember, look at the structure of one county and replicate that to the number of counties you're going to recreate.
Yes.
The finances being sent to those counties. I am aware, even down in Nyanza, there is need to create, I don't know, it's called the Suba County for the Lua Basoba, and then there is Kuria County for the Kurians just like we have Kisii and Nyamira. And of course, Kisii is also heavily crowded. So if we talk about people, probably we'll have Ikonge or Ekerenyo as one of the counties, again in Kisii. Then we talk about Kisumu, there's going to be another split. So this is going to create an endless public dialogue. And you asked, extension of time for what?
Yes.
That was your chief question. Simba, go online and try to read. Look for libraries and key books on public participation. Even today, courts have not agreed on the modalities of public participation.
That's true.
Every judge has his or her own interpretation of what constitutes to perfect and proper public participation. Bringing a sizable number of the country to give their views on certain issues. As we speak, we'll find a few people, maybe one from Homa Bay, one from Nyeri, but majority who are participating in this public dialogue are from Nairobi. Talk about Garissa, Moyale, huko, they have not been represented in this national dialogue. So, probably, as Opiyo Wandayi put it, for abundance of caution, maybe they feel they have cleared their table, but they want to reevaluate. Because one thing that affected the IEBC, you hear one person saying that, oh, he came outside, came forward and presented a sheet of paper and told us that, hey, oh, we have a winner. You see, somebody lamented like that during the NDC.
Yes.
That, oh, we have a winner. And then the question was, who sat to evaluate and verify that this is indeed the winner? So when Opiyo Wandayi speaks about an abundance of caution, probably he wants the people, he wants the committee to sit down and begin to reevaluate what they have done and what they have done so far. Or probably there is another point in the kitchen almost being brought forward. You may never know, Simba. But what I can say is this in my ending, is that I also agree that timelines be stretched, but within this stretch of timelines, people from marginalized counties or far counties from Nairobi be given an opportunity to come forward and put what they think on the table. Or at least, because the former president somehow subdivided the country further to regions, leave alone counties. So we have the Western region, the Mount Kenya region, the former provinces. He made them now to be regions. So if the National Dialogue Committee can now try to decentralize their approach to allow more Kenyans to give their views, and they should not make conclusions based on what they think best, but based on what Kenyans are presented. That is why, if you followed the National Task Force on Review of Religious Laws, the one that was led by Reverend Musimi Mutava on the Shakahola things, I particularly attended 2 or 3 of them. And I was very categorical. Mr. Commissioner, do not impose views on Kenyans because you have come to collect their views. Take their views. Don't impose your views. But if you want to impose views, then conclude and write your report, take back to the president. But if you want Kenyans' views, please do writing and allow Kenyans to give their views. So if this is a national dialogue, then the committee should do more of writing as opposed to speeches. We would not even be treated to such kind of nonsensical argument between Kalonzo Musyoka and the former aspirant of Mombasa. What is his name? Hassan. We would not be treated with such kind of nonsensical arguments in our national TV if indeed they were collecting national, opinions from Kenyans. So they should sit the 60 days, collect, and then the 1 month, they now begin to review and pick up most important and bring us.
Pretty much. Now, let's summarize this conversation like this. Come on, we have 5 minutes left, and I want to take 2 minutes before I give him 1 minute so that we can end this conversation. Here's the thing. But when you look at the issues they've agreed, and I keep on indulging you to this direction, that the issues that will not necessarily take us to a referendum, they've already been agreed upon. The key on that is that they've agreed on how to reconstitute IEBC, very fast indeed. And that will not essentially take us to a constitutional amendment base, where indeed we just have to agree how IEBC is going to be reconstituted, and that can move fast and be passed as fast as it can. It is on these other issues that somebody knows somewhere. And even if we agree today, we'll have to take it to the National House, table these motions, that is exactly what we agreed on, and it's a good thing that we anchored them on law. Tell us if it's indeed possible for us to move forward with these conversations. If the likes of Kalonzo are quite aware, if the likes of Wandanyi are quite aware that they've already agreed on the issues that do not need a constitutional face in this country, why would they ask for more time, knowing very well that on their interests, they would require constitutional change, and that would require more time as well? Come on, take 2 minutes, please.
Are we coaching people on what to say when they go to those talks? Is it an honest place where you're supposed to say what you think should be done? Okay? So that now you are able to say, this is a popular initiative that calls for a popular decision, okay, that requires us to go to the people. It has not been cut across. That is why I'm saying the next phase of our politics is most probably going to come from the extension of this time. Like he's saying, allow people now to come in and speak about their interests. Allow people to come and talk about things that concern them directly, so that from there we are able to decide on the next course of action. Unless you are telling me we are dealing with a predetermined case, then that's a problem.
Doesn't it look like that?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
It does. I mean, when you look at all those issues I want to talk about, and I'll take 45 seconds of this. When you look at those issues I want to talk about, I mean, everybody does know very well that if you want to embed the constitution, the office of the prime minister as the constitution, you got to go to a referendum. If you want to take, you want to entrench the CDF kitty to members of parliament, you got to change that in the constitution. You want to introduce the office of opposition, you got to change that in the
constitution. If you want to add the term limit of the president,
you got to change the
you have to. That's a popular initiative that you have to take to the people.
That's it. So it's already predetermined in the sense of we know where it's headed.
Yes, and that is where I'm saying, Bwana Simba, during this duration of time that these talks have been happening, there have been a lot of evaluation and evaluation on how to shape the next course of things in this country. And that is why I'm saying anything can happen, because I don't think there is a predetermined case on the things that are going to be discussed from here. They should have told us we are extending this time for this content to be discussed. No one has given a way forward on the things to be discussed. So we're expecting more press conferences from these guys to tell us, no, we have added this time so that now you can allow these people to come and talk like this. Let me finish by saying, one of the things we realized with the last, with the former presidency, is that Kenyans can be given what they really need when you can give these politicians something. You know, Uhuru Kenyatta Muigai, the president from Mount Kenya, knew at one point that 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling was important for the people of Mount Kenya. We didn't know there was such that such a thing can happen. And so he opened our eyes to the possibilities of such mechanisms of governance. And so he said, before I give you this, there is something you have I need from you guys.
20 seconds.
We have a BBI which proposes a prime minister position because it is always about them. So they introduced us to the next phase of politics, that it can also be about us, the people. As much as politics is about you and your interest, it can also be about us, the people. And that is why it is very recommendable for people to go and push for their interest in their regions. Because if I go to Busia or I go to any other county as a Kikuyu and I find the mechanisms of policies and governance there I'm working, I do not consider myself as a person from Mount Kenya. I will consider myself with the relations to the benefits that the people there enjoy. You might even see an immigration of people from one county to the other depending on how the interests of that region were pushed by their leaders. Yeah.
That's the thing, Silas, I'm getting told that we have no time. Please take 15 seconds max to summarize this conversation. Yes.
In summary, we just want to warn Kenyans, and this warning is quite serious. Be very categorical and careful and also cautious when you are buying land. Look for advocates of integrity. Just go online, search them, you'll find some lawyers have fraud issues. That is a red light. Secondly, we need to also look at our country in terms of the national face, knowing that you can live in any part of the country. Otherwise, thank you so much. Have a
Pretty much. On a side note, we hope they're not asking for more time because they realize that their chair or the co-chair, Kalonzo Musyoka, is not attending those sanctions. As the only, it's a side note. Guys, take them back to the time that is joining us right here at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. My name is Simba Kiage. See you tomorrow for another sanction. Goodbye. That is the reason.
Introducing the Kenya Trade Fair Fusion Sales Drive event in the